Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the third government conference. It's a genuine pleasure to see so many people in the room on such a glorious day and what promises to be a very fine week weather-wise. You'll be pleased to know, or potentially disappointed to know, that I forewent my pre-conference walk around the golf course in the light of recent events. I'm here, and it's a pleasure to be able to welcome you and to start this conference this morning. 3 years ago, this government set out a plan for this island, which strongly focused on a vision for a secure, vibrant and sustainable island for the long term. Underpinning this has been an economic strategy that set out an ambitious plan to secure the foundations for long-term sustainable growth. Those ambitions sought to address evidenced and recognised challenges primarily presented by changing demographics and the numbers of people in and available for work, and also the need for a robust recovery from the COVID pandemic. And let me be clear about the fundamentals of the economic strategy. The Isle of Man, just like many other Western countries, is a population with a declining birth rate. The birth rate is simply too low, and without significant changes to productivity or without attracting new workers, the cost of delivering health and social care alongside pensions will potentially dominate the public purse for many years to come. The danger, of course, in that then lies that higher taxes and demands are placed on a diminishing working population, leading, of course, to inherent risks around economic performance and potential decline in some public amenities and services. Changes to our productivity must, of course, be focused on technology, but this itself is not a panacea to the problem. A change of demographic through boosting the younger working population, at least in the short term, is absolutely vital, both to addressing the increasing gaps in the employment market and to sustain ourselves by generating the economic growth and taxes needed by the growing numbers of people living longer and, I hope, healthier lives. Retaining our young people and developing the right skills on island is one part of the equation, but there is no question that we need additional skills and unskilled resources to maintain and grow our economy. So the right inward migration policies are necessary if we are to retain the attractiveness of the island to modern business and indeed modern society. You simply cannot have it both ways. It's progress or regress. And that is why, despite the increasing turmoil around us in the last 3 years, both globally and indeed close to home, it is pleasing to note that we are achieving many of those ambitions that we understand we need to meet in order to tackle the immediate issues of the day. Since September 2021, there are now 1,300 more people in work, contributing to our economy, supporting businesses and supporting core services. Moody's latest credit rating describes the island's robust economic growth, strong institutions, prudent fiscal policies, very low direct debt and substantial reserves. There have been almost 800 new houses and housing units being given planning permission on the island since September 2021. And there are more homes planned to support our future success. We've been committed to action on empty wasteland sites to build a more vibrant island, and the government's island infrastructure scheme has been a catalyst for this, and plans for the Villiers site, for example, have received approval. And indeed, I'm pleased to report that activity is about to start on that site, creating retail and office space with an 80-bed hotel. And of course, there are other supported sites which are set to be built, including Lake Road in Douglas, and Ocean Castle in Port Erin, and of course, we all very much hope, Lord Street. And these developments will be transformative in upgrading Douglas as a city, and combined, they all represent about £90 million of private sector investment. And leveraging private sector investment and capability was and is a key anchor in the economic strategy. We've invested £18.3 million into a restoration and recovery programme for hospital waiting lists, cutting waiting times and providing relief to thousands of patients. We've introduced a new quality assurance scheme for our schools, and this framework requires schools and services to self-evaluate key areas, including the quality of education, behaviours, relationships, attitudes, personal development and leadership in the schools. We've put additional funds into our critical transport infrastructure, such as at the airport, into the Liverpool ferry terminal, and as well as supporting the steam packet in having a world-class vessel in the Manxman. In financial services, we have seen the development of global employee benefits clusters. We've seen an acceleration in insurtech interest in our island, and we are now developing a sustainable finance roadmap. In our digital economy, we've now seen the majority of the island able to access high-speed fibre, and we are well on our way to developing our national artificial intelligence strategy. We continue to make progress with onshore and offshore renewable energy commitments, and at the same time, the Green Living Grants have helped support over 3,000 households in driving down their energy bills and improving their household warmth. And in our visitor economy, we've seen strong recovery post-pandemic. Indeed, a record year this year for cruise visitors and the strongest numbers for the TT since the centenary almost 20 years ago. So there will be updates on these and many more of these projects over the coming days. But in delivering all this, it is perhaps all too easy to forget the major national and international events that have carried with them significant social, economic, and reputational impacts. It was only at the start of the administration, 3 years ago, seems a long time, I know, but that we had to exit the COVID pandemic in a controlled and ambitious manner, making the decision and being the first nation to move to self-testing and setting clear dates to return to unrestricted borders. It is easy to forget the impact of COVID, the loss of economic momentum, and indeed the loss of many people from the workforce, and that recovery is still underway. We've navigated our way through one of the worst cost of living crises in many generations, stimulated by a war in Europe, acting quickly to assist those most in need and stabilising our electricity pricing for all across our island. We've brought in legislation against unfair gas disconnections threatening to leave the most vulnerable in our society out in the cold. And we've faced up to the changes needed following a hugely critical and very public employment tribunal, transforming and reforming aspects of central government, creating new definition and accountability for senior roles, establishing a new operations performance board, and encouraging the use and greater use of non-executives in government departments to get a broader and wider perspective. In 3 years of global instability, an unprecedented and unforeseen pandemic, an ongoing and high-risk European war and indeed Middle East troubles, riots recently across the British Isles, 4 British Prime Ministers, 3 Scottish First Ministers, 3 Welsh First Ministers, 2 changes of Chief Minister in their teams in Jersey, Guernsey and Ireland, the Isle of Man has remained strong and stable. Rocky, at times I grant you, but strong and stable nevertheless. Any government will have to respond to things that are outside their control and well beyond the stated political agenda. We have done that, and we have kept plans broadly on track. Nevertheless, we must keep and continue driving change if we are to achieve what we have set out to do, and we need to do that as much as possible together. We need to leverage the assets and qualities of our island jointly, and some of the conference sessions today and tomorrow will touch on that. But this morning, I primarily want to set out what the core focus of this government will be over the next 12 months. Our island plan sets out a vision for a secure, vibrant and sustainable island, and it is the word secure that I wish to highlight now as having a renewed emphasis and focus. I'm sure that we have all been shocked with the outbreak of rioting in the United Kingdom, and indeed the rise in knife crime cannot have gone unnoticed. Despite the fact that we remain the safest place to live and work in the British Isles, we simply cannot take our security for granted. The world is facing ever-increasing threats to physical and economic security, and as a result of this, we are introducing important changes to the way we secure our island. There have already been changes to improve protection for our people, and there is more to come. And particularly with free movement within the common travel area, we increasingly believe we need to know more about who is arriving on our shores. Now, Jane Paul Wilson, the Minister for Home Affairs, will share the detail behind the government strategy for securing our island, which will be published later in the conference. but your security and that of your families is of our highest priority. The threats are changing and we must not be complacent. We will keep investing to keep the island safe and secure. Alongside that, we are paying close attention to our immigration processes and migration policies, and a review of our immigration policy framework is already underway, including an assessment of how it aligns with the United Kingdom. We've also been making significant operational improvements to our immigration service, with investments into more administration resources, along with enforcement, which includes investing in the digitisation of passports and immigration processes, and again, which is being done in partnership with the UK. We have seen increasing and significant demand for immigration post-Brexit, as well as the increased complexity and indeed increased attempts by foreign actors to use our island for purposes that do not fit with our values and goals. This has required us to respond and intervene. We have done, and we will not hesitate to do so, in continuing to develop stronger controls and oversight in this area. All this work is ongoing to ensure that we achieve the right balance of continuing to welcome in people to our island who can contribute to our economy and our society, whilst also underpinning this a need to protect our security. The Island Plan sets out ambitious targets, including related to the identified need for targeted population growth, driven by increases in the economically active. But again, I emphasise this will not be at the expense of our security. We will be reporting in more detail and greater transparency on visa applications and where they are coming from. We will make sure that our processes, whether related to people coming here from inside or outside the common travel area, are robust in order that they cannot be exploited by those seeking to pursue profit at the expense of others. Later this month, we will publish the National Action Plan, which will set out how we are implementing the island's financial crime strategy. And in October, our first ever Countering Financial Crime conference will bring together a diverse group of experts, practitioners and policymakers. The Island Man will soon be assessed under international anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing standards. And whilst the exact date has not been set, we're also expecting to be assessed once again by Moneyval, a Council of Europe monitoring body, in autumn 2026. We are fully prepared to pass this international scrutiny and remain committed to our international standards. In June, in a statement to Tynwald, I set out the requirements for 3 core areas for government to focus on over the summer: travel costs and connectivity, taxation plans, and government efficiency. I know, and I'm fully conscious, there are strong arguments that different, less aggressive pricing on the steam packet will benefit the economy, tourism, hospitality and society. The Council of Ministers agree fully that pricing needs to be addressed, which is why we opened discussions with the steam packet before the summer. I've been clear that we need a more detailed framework for the directors to operate within, which realistically offers fares and freight costs at best consumer value whenever possible, without disrupting the steam packet's ability to operate free from direct government subsidy. This is alongside the first steps, of course, that have been taken by the steam packet in their announcement yesterday. And so whilst I'm today unable to fully report what all the proposals will look like, and of course acknowledging the steps that were taken by the directors and the managing director yesterday, we are making progress, and I expect to give Tynwald and indeed you an update in October as to what that means. We also continue to address the post-COVID issues with air travel that continue to trouble us, and more importantly, trouble not only us, but of course the whole of the British Isles, Europe and further afield. By its very nature, air travel can be affected by issues that are also outside our shores, and the global shortage of air traffic controllers can cause delay across the whole network, and most major airports have seen and continue to see some level of ongoing disruption. And the collapse and consolidation of regional airlines has also played a part in the challenges we are facing. We will update you on these connectivity matters later in the conference, but I can assure you that the government continues to work as hard as possible to maintain routes and keep operations running in challenging circumstances. As you will be told later, we've had to spend millions of pounds supporting and subsidising key air routes and also upgrading our air traffic control capacity. Whilst it will not be too meaningful for those of you caught up in this, nevertheless, it has been pleasing to note that the disruption is considerably reduced from last year by about 41%, and we've got to continue to make every effort to reduce that disruption back down to the most minimalistic levels. I know that last year's budget was difficult for many people and businesses, with the taxation increase for healthcare spending particularly to the fore. This, of course, is a similar story to the one laid out by Lord Darcy's report for the UK government only last week. It will not be a surprise to anyone that we are working in challenging circumstances, and although thankfully inflation has stabilised this year, government spending remains dominated in many ways by healthcare, as I have just alluded to. Last year, with the tax rise included, Manx Care received an additional £43 million in funding, conditional on its promise to stay within budget. It is clear that this will not be the case, and once again, healthcare spending looks to be many, many millions beyond its allocation for this financial year. While there have been years of commitments and actions, further strategic action is needed. This overspending is potentially destabilising an already finely balanced government fiscal expenditure. It simply cannot go on without further risking the stability of our public finance reserves. Departments of government, including health, must stick to their budgets, irrespective of whether they believe or not they are underfunded, and an immediate turnaround plan is now required for Manx Care. These discussions are underway, and as soon as that plan has been agreed, it will be communicated to Tynwald and the community. In terms of public finances, the Treasury Minister will outline his position tomorrow morning, but I want to indicate to you today that the Council's oversight of this budget will be comprehensive and responsible. Government cannot always look outside to solve the problems either. It must, at an institutional level, also look within. Part of the solution to the challenge of finance and delivery, of course, lies with government efficiency and reform. It is unlikely that government efficiencies can go anywhere near the levels needed by the likes of our health service demands, but we must do everything possible now to optimise what we do and the way we do it. I have already alluded to you that some reforms have been made, but these are not enough. The Chief Executive Officer for the Isle of Man Government will be speaking further tomorrow on the future shape of public service delivery and will outline the strategies needed to create a more efficient and sustainable public service in year, as well as the medium to long term. In advance of the budget, I can tell you we are tasking the Chief Executive Officer to draw up a government efficiency and reform plan to deliver as a minimum £10 million of savings and efficiencies outside of healthcare. This work will commence immediately once the plans will be drawn up, and in conjunction with the Operational Performance Board and Tynwald, this will be announced in conjunction with the budget to take effect from April 2025. Productivity is the key word at the heart of the reform programmes, and technology must play a fundamental role in this. I will also ask the Chief Executive Officer to include in his longer term plans the options for reforming government departments and organisational structures. But in the short term, however, and under existing frameworks, there is more that can be defined and, more importantly, coordinated and delivered. Ladies and gentlemen, it is very easy for us to become self-absorbed in our own problems without recognising the context of the international picture beyond our shores. Just because we live on an island, it does not mean we are immune from British economic conditions, the weather, or indeed global events. Yes, we have problems from time to time. Yes, there are things that need fixing. Yes, things can go wrong. Yes, change is difficult. I know that my colleagues know that. We all know that. These are not easy times, but we are a strong island nation. We are a stable island nation, and we can come together and work together to change and adapt. The foundations of our island plan remain strong and relevant, but there is an absolute need now for government to focus on the immediacy of the secure element in the secure, vibrant and sustainable vision that the plan sets out. We are going to secure our ports, we are going to secure our immigration, We're going to secure our public finances. We're going to secure our travel connectivity, and we're going to secure more effective government operations. Stability, security, and safety will be the watchwords. I want you and your families to feel physically and environmentally safe, fiscally and economically safe, and to be safe in the knowledge that despite the difficult challenges all around us, we continue to make progress, working together as a strong, stable, and proud island nation. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the conference.